Let me show you guys how I sublimated this beautiful Steph Curry tumbler for my sister. Let's go. This is my very first sublimation project. I'm using the Epson EcoTank that I converted. I'm using ASAP sublimation paper as well as Hippo Sublimation Ink to achieve this. And this was the design I created in Kittl. And I have another video of how I create my designs in Kittl for these projects. So my sister wanted a Steph Curry tumbler. She loves him, favorite basketball player. So I was like, why not? So I'm using this PYD 20-ounce tumbler along with the HTVRONT auto tumbler heat press. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, this is my first sublimation project ever. So you guys are watching me do this for the first time. We're doing this together. Even though this is an older video, this was the first time I've sublimated. And I was still working on my sizing. So you can see right here, that is way too big. I actually have to cut off that Steph Curry right there. It's not going to work. So I didn't have a problem with it because at this, like, if you don't know who Steph Curry is, what rock are you living under? It's not even necessary. So when I was cutting off the design, it really didn't break my heart at all, even though I did work hard to get that font the exact way I wanted it. So this was it lined up, and there is going to be a little bit of a white space between the images from where I left off one side of the image to the other. So I'm just making sure that the crown is it. And that right there is just to show you there was a little bit of an ink smudge on there. So I'm already prepared to know that I'm going to cut it off right now. So I went ahead and cut that little piece out because, again, I didn't want anything on to the tumbler that wasn't supposed to be there, but I already knew that, hey, if something comes off, that's why it's there. So now I'm just wrapping the tumbler. And again, I am taking my time with this process because, again, I don't want to mess anything up. This is my first time sublimating anything. So I am using the heat transfer tape, the heat resistant tape that came with it. And I actually, since this has been recorded, transferred over. I no longer use the skinny tape because this was a nightmare. I hated it so much, but I am wrapping this in some butcher paper. And the reason I hated it because it was just so thin. It was so sticky. It wasn't my speed. So I went ahead and replaced it with some thicker heat resistant tape since then. So I'm just putting it into the auto press, and I'm going to do it for 365 degrees, I believe, for about 50 seconds. And I did turn it halfway over. So this was it right out. And I'm actually going to place it, and I let it cool. Like, I let it cool to the point of complete, like, it was like 20 plus minutes. So I'm taking this skinny tape, which I hated. I don't like this tape at all. And this was the final result. I absolutely love the way this came out. The colors were so vibrant. And the biggest thing I would say is making sure your image is in 300 DPI before printing. The only ghosting I got was right there at the top of the crown. As you can see, that is the only ghosting I got on this thing. I was so impressed with myself. And you can see right there, that was a little bit of the ink that I cut from right there. So it was still a little bit on there. But outside of that and a little bit of the ghosting on the crown, that was the only thing. I was so proud of myself because this was my first sublimation project. And look at these. Look at these images, so crisp, so clear. And the biggest key takeaway from that, if you're new to sublimation like I am, is making sure you're using high resolution images for these things. I like to create these things myself, especially if I'm giving them as gifts. So again, I thought this turned out so perfect, so great for my first try. And I can't wait for you guys to go on this sublimation journey with me.